Welcome back, everybody. It's your host, Mitchell from Notorious Pills Radio, and we're going to have an exciting UFC pay-per-view event this weekend, November 12th at Madison Square Garden. We're going to be talking about Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira, Carl Esperanza versus Zhang Weili, Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Mike Chandler, and also we're going to talk about Cain Velasquez, how they let him out on bail, and he's back on the streets, and thankfully the trial is still pending. Now, let's get into it. Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira at Madison Square Garden. And like I've been speaking about before, this is the middleweight fight we've all been waiting for.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Everybody calm down!
These two are no strangers to each other in combat sports. As you all know, Alex Pereira has defeated Israel Adesanya 2 times in kickboxing for glory. One time it was by unanimous decision, and the second time Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya met, he beat him by knockout. None the case, Israel Adesanya has become the second ranked pound-for-pound fighter in MMA based on the UFC rankings. He is 23-1. He has absolutely obliterated the middleweight division. He's beat Robert Whittaker, the former champion, 2 times. Marvin Vettori, he's beat him 2 times. He had a win over Jared Cannonier. He fought Paulo Costa. He fought Yoel Romero. He fought Kevin Gastelum. He's beaten Anderson Silva. He's beat Derek Brunson. The list goes on. And he's made an attempt to try to secure another belt at light heavyweight, where he lost by decision to Jan Blachowicz. This guy has no fear. He is here to make a lasting impression on his legacy. Him fighting Pereira, who in a sense is on a 3-fight winning streak in the UFC, has a professional MMA record of 6-1, who's getting a title shot without having to go through the roster that Adesanya is once again Dana White privilege.
If you don't know,
at the end of the
now
day,
you know.
In a company, things have to make sense, and a lot of people want this fight. They want this beef to be settled. Whether Pereira wins or Pereira loses, this is good for the promotion. Whether Izzy wins, Izzy loses, this is good. I really like this matchup, and I like the story that this is building. And finally, in my opinion, this will be the hottest card in North America that the UFC has done. We obviously just came off a really sick card in Abu Dhabi with Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira. But obviously that was in Abu Dhabi. That was in a completely different part of the world. Finally, Notorious Pills Radio, we're going to get to watch history at Madison Square Garden. I cannot wait. Let's go over the odds. You have Izzy at a favorite at -210. And you have Pereira at the underdog at +162. And the way I see this fight is I have to rock with the current champ. He has not let me down since, and I cannot wait to see him perform. There is a lot of bad blood building up to this, a lot of trash talk. And I know Pereira feels really confident because he feels that he has Adesanya's ticket. He already feels that he's planted the seed in his head, and he's just eating him up and destroying him from what their previous history was in another sport. Adesanya is cool as a cucumber. He is embracing this pressure. He cannot wait to step into that ring and start a new slate and destroy Pereira. Like I said, in my opinion, Israel Adesanya has the best walkout in the UFC. I'm low-key alone. I just can't wait for the walkout. just to see what he does, what his song is, how he comes out. Like, that's just so exciting to me because he's such like a show person. He's such an entertainer. And that's what makes me enjoy him being the champion of the middleweight division. It's just this whole aura behind the way he carries himself. And obviously Alex Pereira, you look at him, dude's a savage. Like, guy's weighs like 235 at one point, making 185 to fight Izzy is just, this guy's a fucking beast. He's obviously training with Glover Teixeira, who's going to be fighting December 10. He's going to run it back for his belt against Yuri Prohashka. They're training out of Bethel, Connecticut. He's joined the team in 2020. These Brazilian killers have linked up and are learning from each other. So I do expect Adesanya and Pereira to keep this standing up. I really do not see any of them trying to take each other down, but I can be proven wrong. But I do have a feeling we are going to enjoy a very nice kickboxing match with a lot of extra rules and 4 ounce gloves. So guys, if you're asking about who I am taking that night, I'm gonna ride with the champ Adesanya. At a minus 210, I think it's solid. I don't want to bet against them. You guys decide. Regardless, this is a treat, and this is one of the hottest fights of the year. I love that the UFC has finally got this organized, and on Saturday, we get to watch it live. So let's go on. We obviously have 2 championships fight that night. So we got the ladies back contesting their belt. We got Carl Cookie Monster Esparza, who's coming out, and she's on a 6-fight win streak. And they got the champ at a plus 285 underdog against the former champ, Zhang Weili, 22-3, and she's a favorite at a minus 400. I think these odds are insane how the matchmakers have put it together. Carla Esparza is an insane veteran. She's fought in Bellator. She's fought in Invicta FC. She's fought the who's who in the UFC. She's beat Doug Rose. She's beat Marina Rodriguez. She's beat Michelle Waterson. She's beat Alexa Agrasso. Her resume speaks for itself. She is so tough. She has seen so many different styles in the UFC. And obviously, you guys know the former champ, Zhang Weili. She was the first Chinese champion in UFC history. So I have to respect her for that. She kind of put China, in a way, on the map, especially in the female division. These strawweights are going to deliver nothing but a spectacular performance. Obviously, Zhang Weili, you saw her beat Joanna Jacek with a beautiful spinning back fist her last time out, and it was spectacular. And I have to say, she is probably one of, not probably, she is the strongest strawweight in her division. I don't see anyone carrying the power that she has. I watched a video of her literally lifting up Francis Ngannou and running around with him in the room like she's ready to drop him on his back. Like, this girl has insane power for a strawweight. And on Saturday night, she's going to want her belt back. But I do believe that the odds are way too blown. I do like Zhang that night, and I love her power, and I love her striking and her toughness. And I do her winning the W. What just worries me is that they have the odds so blown out of proportion, which is absolutely insane. Because Zhang also beat Andrade. She beat Joanna 2 times. Tisha Torres. She also has a very spectacular resume. Obviously, she has that blemishes where she lost to Thug Rose 2 times. But I do believe that she's grown from these experiences and she's still getting better. And her ceiling is only rising. And that's why she's getting to fight for the belt yet again. Is because she is that talented. She is that vicious. And the fans are really supporting her. Like I said, the company always does things in mind of the viewers. They want us to be in tune, and the fights have to make sense. And to me, her fighting for the belt in MSG makes absolute sense. It's the most famous arena in the world. It's giving both champion and former champion the spotlight they deserve. And I cannot wait for these strawweights to get into the octagon and really show their talent. Zhang is going to be my pick for that night, but anything can happen, and I really can't wait for these ladies to kick it off. For the next fight is going to be it's the fight everybody wants to see. As much as we love Adesanya and we love Pereira, everybody loves Dustin Poirier. Everybody knows the diamond, and obviously everyone loves the way Michael Chandler gets in it. These guys are kill or be killed fighters. They leave it absolutely all in the ring, and the fact that they finally get to meet is a true homage. And this is my treat that I'm going to get to watch, is because Poirier obviously got to fight for the title 2 times in the lightweight division. He was a former interim lightweight champion. He lost to Oliveira. He obviously had 2 beautiful wins where he beat Conor McGregor. He beat Dan Hooker. He lost to Khabib, but he had a beautiful victory over Max Holloway. The challenger, you have Michael Chandler, who came into the league with a little bit of Dana White privilege.
If you
His
don't
first
know,
fight, he had a
now you know.
spectacular performance against Dan Hooker. Then he got to fight the former champion, Charles Oliveira, where he lost by knockout. Then he lost last year in 2021 to Justin Gaethje in MSG, and that was the opening fight. Like, do you understand? That was one of the sickest fights. The crowd was literally drained because that's how much back and forth action Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler were giving the crowd in MSG. So for Chandler to come back to Madison Square Garden, I almost feel like he's going to have that home court advantage. The fans love him here. He has delivered a spectacular performance. He's a former Bellator lightweight champ. He is no slouch. He's training out of Florida. He is a very dominant wrestler. He is a hard puncher, and he goes 100%. He leaves nothing behind in any of the fights. It's kill or be killed. That's his style, and it's a very exciting style. He's okay with losing. He comes back for the redemption. This fight, his last fight, he had a redemption fight. He got to fight Tony Ferguson, where he finished Ferguson with an absolutely gorgeous front kick up the middle, where he knocked Tony out cold. That obviously led him to another huge fight, where he's getting to fight Dustin the Diamond Poirier, who's a household name in the UFC. Obviously, Dustin is the number 2 ranked lightweight in the division. Chandler's number 5th. Chandler keeps saying he wants a title shot. I understand. So does everybody in the top 5. For that to happen, you got to go through guys like Poirier, like Gaethje, like Charles Oliveira. He's lost to the other top 2 guys. If he can't get through Poirier, I don't see him ever asking for a title shot in the UFC. I don't see that even being possible. It's so important for him to make a statement Saturday night. I can't even urge, but I do believe he's going to pull this upset. I'm really, really liking, like I said, styles make fights, and I believe Poirier is a little bit of a slow starter. And since it's 3 5-minute rounds, where if it was a 5-round fight, I would probably edge it to Poirier because of the skill and experience he has in longer fights. But since we're going to be coming out really fast, 3 5-minute rounds, I'm going to have to edge it to Chandler. He's the underdog at a plus 180, whereas Poirier is the favorite at a minus 235. I really like Chandler in this fight. I got to go with my gut, and I'm rocking with Iron Mike Chandler. I think he's super solid, and I think he's going to upset Poirier. And I don't think they'll give him a title shot, but I do believe him beating Dustin Poirier kind of lines up the next fight for Beneil Dariush, because he's been nothing but spectacular, and I feel like he's very close to a title fight, and he just needs to fight one or two, I think one more solid performance like he did, and I think he gets to run that fight with Islam that was kind of postponed due to injury before, where they were supposed to meet prior. So this matchup, in a sense, lines up the next fight that will be the challenger to Islam, because they're saying right now that Volkanovski is going to fight Islam. We'll see how that plays out, but the division itself has to find another challenger. So I think there's a few more fights between the top 5 that they have to scramble, and they're going to come up with a perfect challenger for Islam Makhachev. So really stay tuned, and we got to be rocking with Michael Chandler that night. For our next fight, it's obviously our Hall of Fame legend, and this is going to be his most likely retirement fight, and it's Frankie the Answer Edgar. And as you all know, if you grew up watching the UFC, you have to know who Frankie Edgar is. He's a former lightweight champion. He has fought the who's who in MMA. He beat BJ Penn in 2010 for the belt, and that was ranked the biggest upset of the year. When I tell you Frankie has been nothing but an underdog his whole life, I cannot express that. But him being a champ at 155 and him actually fighting today at bantamweight just realizes how the divisions have evolved over time, that whereas 155 might have been a more comfortable weight for him to fight at, he is physically just too small to compete with these new era lightweights that the UFC currently have. They are bigger, they are faster, they're coming down from much bigger weights. He's just realized for him to stay even remotely competitive, he has to come down in weight. And he obviously see even at bantamweight, he hasn't had much success. So his bantamweight debut was in 2020, where he had a unanimous decision over Pedro Munoz. Then he fought Corey Sandhagen, where he got knocked out. And then the following fight, he fought Marlon Chito Vera, where he also got knocked out. So it's to show you that even though he was used to fighting lightweights, him coming down to bantamweight, which is a 20-pound difference, it still shows that either he's cutting too much weight and he's not used to it, so it's exposing his jaw and he's getting knocked out easily, or these bantamweights are just packing stupid power at 135, and they have the weight cut down to a sweet science where they can make weight but still rehydrate and replenish themselves and still carry a lot of power during their fights. His opponent is a real sick up-and-coming guy. His name is Chris Gutierrez, aka El Guapo. He's 18-4, and he's actually a heavy favorite at a minus 245. He's actually on a 6-fight win streak with 1 draw. He fights at a Factory X in Denver, Colorado. And the one thing that you have to keep an eye out for, this dude has some wicked, wicked leg kicks. He's actually won a match via TKO with leg kicks where he just kept hurting his guy with low kicks until he just couldn't get up, and then the ref had to call the fight. You rarely see that. Everyone knows that you invest in the legs to slow your opponent down, and with time the swelling builds, and with the calf kicks, as you've seen that Poirier did to McGregor, is you just invest in the legs, it slows down the whole entire body. They lose a lot of the power in their hands because it's all generated from the legs. As much as I love Frankie and I love watching him grow up, I just don't see him beating Gutierrez. Gutierrez is a wicked dude at 135. And even though he's not ranked and Frankie's ranked 12, that really means very little to me. I'm looking at overall skill set and where each person is in their career. Frankie right now, I feel like, is in the out. The UFC is giving him a beautiful homage fight in MSG, where his family friends, he's a New Jersey local, can come out and give him one last hurrah. I'm going to be there. I'm going to enjoy watching Frankie Edgar's last fight. I just don't think he has enough in him to take this hungry, hungry prospect that is climbing the ranks. And I do believe that Chris Gutierrez will be too much for him. So that night, stay tuned. I could be wrong. Frankie has made bigger upsets in the past, but I just do believe he's on the decline and age is catching up to him, and all that damage and wear and tear has finally caught up to him. The opening match that we have is Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. So obviously, you know, Hooker, he's been on a little bit of a losing streak. He lost to Arnold Allen before. He obviously lost to Islam Makhachev. He had a nice little win over Nasrat Haqparast. He lost to Mike Chandler and he lost to Dustin Poirier. He's going against one of the sickest dudes from Peru. His name is Claudio Puelles, and he's the underdog at a plus 138. He's 13-2, and he is on a 5-fight win streak. The one thing that you need to watch out about Puelles, he has beaten a lot of opponents with his knee bar. That is like his signature move. And I do believe he's going to catch Dan's long, lanky ass in a wicked-ass submission. So I am not going with the favorite with Dan Hooker. I'm going to rock with Claudio Puelles. Like I said, guys, I can go on and on. This card is absolutely stacked. But I'm going to highlight one of my guys who's fighting in the early prelims. He's closing it out, and that is
the Steamroller Frivola.
Matt Steamroller Frivola from the Sarah Longo fight team. Record 9-3-1, lightweight, fighting a guy who was a very regarded prospect in the UFC, was kicked out in Abu Dhabi for smuggling some shit. No one knows exactly what he brought in, but he got caught and he got kicked out of the UFC. Now he's back. His name is Atman Azaitar. He's 13-0, nicknamed the Bulldozer. He currently has 2 fights in the UFC and both finishes. In general, in his 13 fights, I think he's only been to 1 decision. He is a very, very big finisher. But at the same time, I don't believe he's fought anyone as good as Matt in the UFC. Matt has fought much, much stiffer competition and has a much more decorated resume than Zaitar. Zaitar and Matt were supposed to meet a while back, but things happened. Fight got dissolved, and finally, Zaitar's fight that coming back to is against Frivola in MSG. And Matt has that home court advantage. He has that huge fan base in Brooklyn, Long Island, New York, Westchester. The whole state is rocking with our guy Frivola, the steamroller. And we cannot wait for him to get in. And I'm telling you, there's 2 ways to take this. You got to take Matt by knockout and Matt by decision. And that's it. Take both those lines, and I promise you will thank me later. He is coming out heavy. He looks fantastic. Weight is on point. His team is stacked. The whole gym is on the up and coming. That whole gym has a bunch of killers in Long Island. I am telling you, I am super excited to watch this fight and root for our guy, Matt Frivola. So keep an eye. He's closing out the early prelims. He is the main fight on the early prelims, and you do not want to miss this. Another breaking news that I want to bring in is they finally freed our guy, Cain Velasquez. Thank God. My man has been locked up for 8 months for defending his family. And I understand he did something. He fired a weapon. But at the same time, be in his shoes to find out what happened to his family member is a horrendous thing. And anyone, including myself, would have not thought twice and most likely done the same exact thing. They released my guy on a bail of $1 million. The trial is pending. He's wearing a GPS tracking device, and he has to stay 300 yards away from the victims in the case, which I don't think will be a problem. I don't think he's going to try to go for any type of revenge. I think he's going to let the courts handle this and let his attorneys bring him to justice. So I'm just really happy that he's out of prison. He gets to be home, and that's where he deserves. Guys, remember, if you really enjoy our episodes and you want to show us absolute support, please, we have so much amazing merchandise that is coming out on notoriouspoolsclothing.com. Like, follow, subscribe us on all platforms, and we will be Saturday night at UFC MSG, live, interacting with fans, doing giveaways. If you see us, say hi to us, shout us out. We love talking to the crowd, and we love interacting with the fans, and we'll see you Saturday night at MSG. Enjoy, and we'll be back soon.